this video, we're going to be discussing some Saints cut candidates after the first 2 sessions of organized team activities. Welcome into Saints Now by Chat Sports. My name is Trace Girouard, and I hope you guys are excited for this video. But if you're not excited about this video, that's fine. I know we can all agree on this. We're excited for some real football. So if you're with me and you're pumped up to see the black and gold take the field under new offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak, I want you to type me in the comment section. Had to rep the Drew Brees jersey because he was recently inducted into the Saints Hall of Fame. And so if you want to show him some love too, show some love to our king, Drew Brees. First cut candidate, we're sticking with the quarterback. Just talked about Drew Brees, but we're going to talk about another quarterback who isn't as good as Drew Brees, and that is Nathan Peterman, a free agency addition that was brought in somewhat early into the free agency period for the New Orleans Saints, and I do think that there was intention to keep him around on the roster, but then we get to the 2024 NFL Draft, and this guy right here, number 18, falls to the New Orleans Saints in the 5th round, and that is Spencer Rattler. Now, I do think that this picture right here, these are the 3 quarterbacks you're rolling with. I think this is how the quarterback depth chart will shake out. It's going to be Derek Carr, Jake Haener, and then Spencer Rattler as the QB3. And I don't see a world where they carry 4 quarterbacks on the roster, especially considering in an absolute worst-case scenario, in an absolute pickle, you could let Taysom Hill line up at quarterback. And I do think in terms of Nathan Peterman, I don't think he's like out of New Orleans entirely. I think that he's actually going to be a guy who finds himself on the practice squad. And in the NFL, most, if not all, teams carry a practice squad quarterback. Every single team does. And I think that that's who the practice squad quarterback's going to be. The past few years was Jake Luton, so he never really saw the field. I think that there is value with Peterman. He's a smart guy in between the helmet, or inside the helmet in between the ears. And on top of that, he has a high football IQ. I know that the production was never there, but that doesn't mean that he can't be a good tool and a good resource for Derek Carr and the rest of the quarterbacks. But talking about the defensive side of the ball now, I think DeMarco Jackson, a draft pick out of App State from a couple of seasons ago, could be a possible odd man out in this situation. And I think that DeMarco Jackson has a really limited usage because it's been mostly special teams, and we've seen him get a handful of snaps here and there in the regular season, like on the defensive side of the ball. But, I mean, I remember last year he recovered that fumble, which was a blocked punt by Nephi Sewell, and scooped it, scored it, and took it to the house for 6 against the Carolina Panthers. So that's where that fumble recovery and the touchdown comes in, but also had 12 tackles. And I just think that his usage might be washed out because of how loaded this linebacker group is. I mean, Pete Werner, he's in a season where he has to prove a lot. Demario Davis, arguably one of the top 3 linebackers in the league. Willie Gay, I think, is going to add a lot of athleticism and a lot of energy to this unit. But I do know that the Saints drafted Jalen Ford. They probably value Nephi Sewell. They brought in Khaleke Hudson. And on top of that, Isaiah Stallbird has also been really making noise at OTA. So it's going to come down for me to the special teams contribution. And Darren Rizzi, he really likes DeMarco Jackson. And whenever Jackson came up with that blocked punt and was able to make some noise and was able to go and score 6 points, that won him a lot of brownie points in the Saints' eyes, in my personal opinion. Now, again, this is a loaded linebacker group, so it's really going to come down to, will Jalen Ford be contribute more on special teams? Will Khaleke Hudson contribute more on special teams? Will Isaiah Stallbird be a special team star? That's what it's going to come down to for me. So we'll have to see how that pans out through the rest of training camp, but I do think that DeMarco Jackson might be the odd man out. And guys, if you want to get a New Orleans Saints jersey, fun fact, Kool-Aid McKinstry just signed his contract with the New Orleans Saints. The 2nd-round pick is officially official. So if you want to go get his jersey, go to chatsports.com/Saints jerseys. You can also go get Spencer Rattler. Or what about Derek Carr if you want to go get yourself a jersey, or go get your girlfriend or your brother or your cousin or your mom a jersey. We got women's ones as well. You can go get Brian Brzee, or you can go get the man who's been recently inducted into the Saints Hall of Fame, number 9, Drew Brees. If you use our link right there, chatsports.com/Saints jerseys. We got legends, we got current players, we got rookies, men's, women, children's sizes, and on top of that all, you can get home, away, color rush, or throwback. So Go get yourself geared up right now with the link below. It's also in the comment section, the description of the video. So cut candidate number 3, we've talked about Blake Grupe before, but I wanted to take a little bit more of a deep dive on what he's been able to do in terms of his NFL career. So last year in 2023, Blake Grupe had a field goal percentage of 81.1, which was actually, it's a typo, so that's on me. No, that's actually right. It was tied for 23rd. Will Lutz had an 88.2, which was 13th in the NFL. So I know that there was a lot of chatter of, well, Lutz versus Grupe. They went with Grupe over Lutz. Lutz goes to the Denver Broncos with Sean Payton and ends up doing okay. Now, in terms of the 20 to 29 yards, pretty solid, 10 for 12, but I feel like you should be automatic from, within 30 yards. 30 to 39, 6 for 6, 40 to 49, 8 for 10, and 50 plus yards. He was 6 for 9. He had a long of 55 yards, which was tied for 18th in the NFL. And worth noting, again, Will Lutz had a long of 52 yards, which was tied for 33rd. Fun fact. So there you go. Do you want more accuracy? Do you want a longer boot? It's kind of the argument there with Blake Grupe versus Will Lutz. But Lutz isn't around. Charlie Smyth is here. And John Hendricks, who does a wonderful job covering the New Orleans Saints over at the Saints News Network, he broke down what Charlie Smyth was doing at OTA, saying that he hit all 5 of his kicks, which went from extra point to the 44-yard range. There's a strong appreciation for how much velocity he gets on his kicks, making it seem effortless. It was definitely a good confidence builder for Smyth. And Charlie Smyth, a couple other reports from practice. If you go check out the Second and Saints podcast, they actually discussed it. Ross Jackson and John Hendricks were talking about Charlie Smyth literally kicking the ball out of the field, like over the hedges where the Saints didn't. The ball was gone. Whenever you're playing kickball at recess and you kick the ball over the fence and the teacher's like, sorry, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have kicked it that hard. That was what Charlie Smyth was doing. Like, let me put that in perspective. And also, in terms of the accuracy, right down the middle. He was damn accurate and damn powerful. And I think that Charlie Smyth has a real opportunity to make this roster. So pick a kicker. Who's going to win the battle this offseason? Is it going to be Blake Grupe or is it going to be Charlie Smyth? Type their initials in the comment section. I can't wait to see what you got to say. So Johnathan Abram, the safety that the Saints actually brought back in free agency, is a cut candidate for me today. And it's nothing that he did. It's actually because Millard Bradford, the undrafted free agent out of TCU, has actually been lighting it up. And on top of that, he is an extremely versatile player who can play down in the box and in the slot. And he's a guy who's a lot younger, who could be a little bit quicker, who could bring another sense of juice to the Saints defensive back group. And to be honest, if we give any credit to anybody, Dennis Allen is damn good at developing defensive backs. Like there is no question about it. And I think that this current group is solid. JT Gray, he's your special teams ace. He is not going anywhere. He is too valuable on the special team side of the ball. But I think Lawrence Johnson may be at risk of not making the roster. Jordan Howden, excited to see what he can do in year 2. But I think that Millard Bradford has a sneaky possibility to maybe sniff out a spot on the roster, possibly over Johnathan Abram. And I do think that there's value with having Abram on the roster because coaches and players last year, they responded really, really well to him, and they valued him as a leader and respected him as a player. But I could see the Saints deciding to go a little bit younger and a little bit fresher with a player like Millard Bradford, who also, for the record, would be a little bit cheaper as well, too. And it's not like Johnathan Abram's making a ton of money this year. He's on a vet minimum deal. But I will say, I think that the Saints might want to start kind of chipping away in very minuscule parts at that 2025 cap hit, which is outrageously large right now. So maybe Johnathan Abram will make the roster. I think that he could make it, but Millard Bradford has been doing really, really well at practices. So Abram, better watch your back, my friend. Adam Prentice, the fullback, is the last cut candidate that we're discussing in today's video. And similar to Johnathan Abram, it's not what he isn't doing, it's actually what other people are doing. Now, Taysom Hill, we all know, he is a football player. He is not a quarterback. He is not a wide receiver. He is not a tight end. He's not a running back. He kind of does literally everything. And it's worth noting, he was working with the fullbacks, actually bringing in a new element to what he can do in terms of his football contributions. And on top of that, Xander Horvath, I think he's a big-time sleeper for the New Orleans Saints. And I just want to give him a little bit of credit, not to be weird, but I was kind of doing a little bit of Instagram stalking of Xander Horvath, trying to learn a little bit more about the player. And this guy is deadlifting 315 for 10 reps. He's freaking massive. And look at this picture. Like, I'm going to say what we're all thinking. That guy is fucking huge. He is jacked. And if that's the case, I'm sorry, give him the football, because I would love to see anybody try to tackle him, especially like a small safety or something. Now, do not sleep on Xander Horvath. I think that he is a player who schematically could fit really well with Clint Kubiak because he does have some receiving ability. And coming out of Purdue, he was utilized as a running back who could receive and rush the ball pretty effectively. Now, he has a very limited sample size in his career, only 1 year of production, 5 receptions, 8 yards, 2 touchdowns on 5 catches, which is pretty nice. But he also only has 4 carries for 8 rushing yards. So very, very limited sample size. But we'll see if Kubiak wants to try to utilize Xander Horvath similar to how he utilized Kyle Juszczyk, which I think you could really maybe get that kind of usage and that kind of play out of Horvath or Taysom Hill. So we'll see what happens there. Maybe Adam Prentice is on the chopping block. But I want you to let me know, who did I miss? Is there any player that I didn't name that you think could be cut this offseason? I want you to shout them out in the comment section right now. And as always, Saints fans, thank you so much for tuning into today's video. I hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend, and we're going to be back this week with some fresh content for you. So don't forget to subscribe, and y'all stay golden. We'll see you next time.